name's Mel, as you probably already know, but I remembered that we have not had a proper introduction. So I have some Q&A questions that you guys sent in, and we're gonna go over those. They're all in the same vein. I bet you can guess what they're about. The first one is, how many jobs have you had? That is a loaded question. As someone who grew up in a tourist town, you don't keep jobs year round for the most part. You work a bunch in the summer, make a bunch of money, and then in the winter, spend what you had. I've been working since I was 13. I would say I've had upwards of 20 jobs. I've worked housekeeping, I've worked front desk at hotels, I've worked all sorts of food service, candy stores. All up to that is which was the best and which was the worst. Now, every job comes with coworkers, customers, and managers. If not all of those are perfect, you're not gonna love the job, but the odds of all of those being perfect are slim. So I would say my favorite job was probably one of the candy stores. It's just the fun of it. You get to work with things I feel like people don't usually work with. I learned a lot about chocolate and candy, and we got to make our own taffy. I would see that process. I just thought it was really cool. I would also say that working housekeeping was one of my favorites because it was not super customer facing. You worked at your own pace and you got to work independently. I enjoy that in a job, especially after you've been working customer service for so long. The worst job that I've ever had was a fast food job. It was when I worked for Carl's Jr. And it's not because of the company. Carl's Jr. also gave me so many things. Like, it was my first salary manager position. They helped me get a car. It was my real step into adult working, but the environment that I worked in was deplorable, and it scarred me. It affected the way that I work to this day. So Carl's Jr. was the worst, but not on any part of the company. Now, that worst job question, it was asked like 3 or 4 times. The reason that was my worst job was because the manager that I worked under for most of it was very controlling, very rude, would outwardly call you like any curse word under the sun in front of customers. And even after I left her store, she thought that I belonged to her because she trained me. So no matter how hard I was working at whatever store I was at, she would still expect me to pick up some of her slack because I owed her one. Because she trained me, I owe my position to her, obviously. So that was my worst job. Another question I get asked a lot, is this my full-time job? And yes, it is. For me personally, this worked out perfectly. I have a myriad of physical issues. I have a really bad back. I have really bad anxiety and depression issues. I'm medicated, don't worry. But this just worked out perfectly for me to have something that's very low impact on my body. And I value my free time a lot. I am a person that my time is money. My time is precious. You never know how much you have, and you're never gonna have more than you have right now. My time is incredibly important to me. So I'm so thankful that I get to make these videos, and it gives me the time to go on the adventures that I want to work on the novel that I'm currently writing, to just not panic and be at work for 70 hours a week, which I know not everyone can do that. I'm so grateful and so lucky. Even though I'm still considered like a micro influencer, I'm so lucky to be where I am right now. Stemming from that, another question that was asked was, what made me want to start making videos? I'm one of those people who downloaded TikTok mid-pandemic because I had to stay out of work for a COVID test. I finished watching Tiger King, and I had no clue what to do. A couple years ago, I started posting some audio TikToks. It was the biggest thing back then, just lip-syncing something from a show you liked or doing a little dance, but I'm not a dancer. So I would do a couple audios, and then I moved into book talk. I would post about books. I kind of dropped off doing that. And then one day, I saw someone tell a theatrical version of something that happened to them at work. And I was like, you know what? That seems kind of cathartic. I have plenty of stories to tell. Let's just give it a shot. The first video I posted like that was just a story time, sort of, about something that happened to me at a candy store that I worked at, and it blew up. And I immediately realized that this was something people wanted to see. If you've never worked customer service, it's interesting to see the interactions that can be had. And if you have worked customer service, I would like to think that a lot of my videos, they make you feel good. I give you a satisfying ending when it's not always a satisfying ending in real life. Don't get me wrong, some of my skits end with me angry and you angry, and that's just how life is. But I do like to wrap it up in a nice big bow because you don't get that when you're working customer service. So I found that it was a nice way to build a community of like-minded people who have either been through the same things I have or are interested in the same things I have. And it is very interesting to me, the amount of people that I've met when I'm out and about around town. They'll stop me and say, "Oh my God, are you Melissa?" And a few times it's happened when I'm like a customer at a fast food restaurant, and the worker will be like, "Hold on, do I know you from TikTok?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they get to ask me all these questions, and it's so cool to them because I was them. I'm still you. Don't worry about that. But I worked at Dairy Queen. I worked at Taco Bell. I worked at whatever. Like, I know what it's like to be in your shoes and to be talked to the way that you're talked to, and to deal with the employees who do and the managers who do. And it's nice to have a creator that you really enjoy and they're one of your favorite creators, but they're also like a carbon copy of you. I feel like I don't have many creators that I look up to that are like me, really. So I think that's part of my charm, and that's why I enjoyed posting the videos that, like, if you want to post videos, do it. I know people say that a lot, but just post a video. And I know it feels like it's a never-ending battle, an uphill struggle, but just post a video. Eventually it's going to happen or it's going to not, but either way, the video is cathartic and you're putting your content, your art, your thoughts out there. The next question is how many of my skits are real? And I know a lot of you are curious about this. I would say that 90 to 95% of my skits are things that I have gone through or things that have happened to a very close coworker that I am working with at that time. Even if it didn't happen to me, it happened to my coworker while we were on shift together. 3-ish% of the stories are submitted stories or videos, and I will put in the caption that it was a viewer submission. And maybe 2% are completely fabricated off the wall. But if you know anything about customer service, you know that even my fabricated is more than likely real. It's happened to somebody. I can guarantee it that that's not out of the realm of possibility. Now, that being said, Peg's Diner, that new universe that I am doing, is fictional. It's obviously I draw from real world scenarios, but the characters are fictional, the situations are fictional. It's a story that I'm making so we can have something with some longevity to it, something we can watch for a while. But a lot of my skits are real, not just the ones that I put in the caption, "Yes, this is a real story." I do that for the ones that seem like they'd be far-fetched or seem like I'd be lying. So I put in the caption, "Yes, this is real. It happened. I'm as astounded as you are." Another question on my list that I've already sort of answered was who was my worst manager? The Carl's Jr. manager. The one that acted like she owned me. That was my worst manager. Managers that don't do much, but honestly, it's no skin off my bones. I work 110% all of the time. I don't know how to half-ass things. So yeah, it sucks to pull other people's weight, but I do it, and I do it frequently, and I honestly don't mind it that much. So if someone doesn't work a lot, I'm not really concerned about that. I'm just concerned with your attitude and how you treat coworkers. It's not even necessarily me, but if you're abusing the people below me or my coworkers, I won't stand for it. I do not allow that kind of behavior to happen because we are all living our first life and there's no reason for you to treat somebody like that. So, do better. I was asked what the funniest skit I've ever made was. Honestly, anytime I have anything thrown at me, there's someone off camera throwing that thing at me. My boyfriend and my friend Alyssa have both been ones to chuck something at me for the sake of a video. And they hate it every time. We sit there and we giggle for a minute and they're like, "I really don't want to throw this at you." And I'm like, do it, send it, do it. And I love it, personally. I think it adds a funny undertone to the video. Those are my personal favorites to film. I don't know if I have like a favorite skit that I've ever filmed. Actually, one that comes to mind is, it didn't get a lot of views. It was back when I started filming with the ring light and I would be standing the entire time, but I realized that wasn't quite the way I wanted to film things and it didn't work for the way that I told stories. But I did one with like a Family Guy cutaway. Maybe I'll find it and put that scene right here. But to me, it was just hilarious. I don't know what it was, but it just tickled me. And it wasn't a big hit, but I loved it. That was probably one of my favorite videos. I will put it right after this so you can watch it. When did we get Worcestershire sauce? Hey, Mel. Oh, hey, Jen, what's up? Do you want the bad news first or the good news first? I want the bad news first. Okay, well, the bad news is that the only other manager scheduled to work today just called out. They have COVID, and no one is answering their phones. Okay, what's the good news then? The good news is that I already ordered some Chinese food for lunch. Man, this is worse than that time the fryers leaked out all over the floor. How are we supposed to clean this up? I think we just sell the place. Mel? Earth to Mel. Hello? Oh, sorry. I've been watching a lot of Family Guy. No, it's cool. I'll stay closed. No big deal. Okay. Okay, cool. Works for me. Now we're gonna move slightly away from the customer service stuff. I wanted to get all of those out of the way because I'm sure that's what you're most curious about. And now I have some other questions here that are more personal or about my book content. Someone asked me how many pets I have, which I love. I have one cat. Her name is Freya. She is about 1.5 years old. An old roommate of mine found her like in a bush on the streets in Portland. Couldn't keep her because she doesn't get along with other cats, and that ex-roommate, already has a couple cats. She posted her on Instagram, and she said if she couldn't find anyone to take her that day or have a plan for her that week, that she would have to go to the shelter. And my boyfriend and I had discussed getting a cat before this, but I just looked at him and I was like, look at this cat. Isn't this a cute cat? We could maybe get this cat. We got the cat. Her name is Freya. We love her. She loves her dad. Her and Dom, my boyfriend's name is Dominic. Her and Dom love each other. She's a daddy's girl. It doesn't make me jealous, yes, but she's amazing. I love her. She's a long hair. I'll put a picture here or a video here somewhere. She's adorable. Her name is Freya. I love her. Someone asked me my favorite color, which I also love. Thank you. I actually asked that question to a lot of people. For me, it's almost a science experiment because I'm so curious about what people's favorite colors are. And I've come to realize 9 times out of 10, if you ask a man what his favorite color is, it's blue. And I always wonder if that's because they genuinely like blue or if it's because they've been surrounded by blue their whole lives because it's like the gendered color. So what's your favorite color? Wondering. Mine is probably right now a pale pink or a pale yellow. I'm really into pastels. I do love a vibrant color, and I've recently just started to love the color yellow. I don't know what it is, but right now yellow is up there. Yellow and pink are probably tied for my favorite colors. Someone asked me for some travel tips because, as you guys know, I do go on a lot of adventures. They said that they are nervous to go solo adventure, and I will say a lot of the adventures you've seen me on recently, I have not been alone. My friend Alyssa comes with me a lot of the time, or Dominic comes with me. But when I first started adventuring back in 2020, when I got my own car, it was largely by myself. What I do personally is I do extensive research on the trails and the things I want to see. I go on all trails, I read the reviews. You can't always trust all trails as far as like difficulty of the trail, but read the reviews of it and it will really give you a feel for where you're going to be. I look up crime rates. If I'm going to a city that I'm not familiar with, I'll look up the local crime rate. I'll look up the safest parts of town. That's where I'm going to get my hotel. I've never really been afraid to stay in a hotel by myself because they have really good security measures, I feel, for the most part. But I've never done Airbnb. That would make me nervous. That is a suggestion of mine, I guess. If you're solo traveling, I wouldn't do Airbnb because I feel like there's so many outliers and so many things that can go wrong. It would freak me out. The hotel really makes me feel comfortable. So I have an itinerary. I extensively research everything I want to go and see. I have 3 different people who have my location at all times, and I will update them. Like, even if you don't have family, your best friend or the person you're dating or even someone from work, just say, I'm taking this time off. Would you be willing to have my location just in case something goes south? Especially when you're in the wilderness by yourself. I know you're not scaling a mountain, but you should still have some precautions in place. So I suggest someone having your location. I just update them, like if I'm going somewhere, hey, I'm gonna be on this trail, you have my location, blah, blah, blah. And you just set up a couple of security measures. It'll make you feel better. The first couple of times you're gonna be kind of freaked out, but that's okay. It happens. But once you start getting these amazing experiences and seeing these beautiful things, it's so worth it. You only get the one life, and honestly, you should see everything you can see. Do not let that fear stop you. Bravery is not the absence of fear, it's the understanding of it. So go and do what you want to do. Someone asked me what's wrong with my back, which I get that. I did recently sit on my butt for 3 days because I couldn't move. I have mild scoliosis, and when I was younger, I was in this thing called running club, and it was raining the day we were doing it. They had us run down a really steep hill, and I fell so hard on my back that I bounced back onto my feet. By the time I got to the bottom of the hill, I was like purple, I could barely breathe, my back was twinging, I couldn't move properly. This was like 5th grade, I was 10 or 11, and we ended up going to the hospital after that. They said that I pulled a muscle in my lower back, and I don't think that it ever healed correctly. I go to the chiropractor every so often to try to level myself out. One of my legs is shorter than the other, so that can contribute to it as well. Everything affects everything. Like if your feet hurt, your ankles hurt, your knees hurt, your hips hurt, your back hurts. It all is interconnected. So I'm big as well. We can't skirt around that. I am overweight, so it does affect your health, and it would affect back problems if you have them. So it's a culmination of a never really healed injury, a little bit of scoliosis, and my weight. So I have a bad back. I do try to bend with my knees. I try to be aware of it. I stretch in certain ways to try to loosen myself up. When these things do happen, I typically try to work through them and work out whatever pain I'm having. But this most recent flare-up, I couldn't get out of bed. Someone needed to put a gait belt around my waist and pull me up because it was difficult. Someone asked how many books I've read in the last year. So this year so far, I've read 82. My goal for the year was 80. I breezed by. I did not think that I was going to read that much. Last year I read 111. My goal is to beat that, preferably now since I beat the original goal and we're only 5 months in. I have, again, remember, this is my full-time job, so I have a lot of free time. Don't beat yourself up if you've only read a book this year, if you haven't read at all this year. Everyone reads at different paces, everyone enjoys themselves in different ways, and reading is just one of my main hobbies. It's a lot of my time taken up, and I read very quickly. Someone asked my favorite book genre, and that is kind of hard. I'm a mood reader, but if you look at my shelves, you'll notice that I have mostly fantasy and historical fiction. I'd say those are the two predominant genres on my shelf, but I also have so much YA, dystopian, horror. I have a ton of horror books, thriller books. I love thriller books. I've recently gotten into contemporary romance. I've been reading a bunch of Elsie Silver. I have a bunch of Emily Henry. I love a lot of books. Any book that is good, I'll read. Even if it's not good, if it's got good vibes, I'm there. I'll read it. Another bookish question is my favorite book. And if you read, you know that that's insane. Don't ask me that, okay? I read so many books. I oscillate through different favorites. I would say something that sits there and never moves from my top 5. I'm gonna go with Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. It is a historical fiction book. It's about a Lithuanian girl during Stalin's reign. It is such a good book. It's stayed in my top 5 since I read it in like 8th grade. If someone asks for a book suggestion and that's something they like, that is something I tell them. I also love all of Kristen Hanna's books. You'll notice that I recently read them, but they're all in like my top 20 right now because they're just so good and they're so fresh in my mind. So the emotion of it is with me so predominantly. I want to say that they're my favorite. And series-wise, books that I've always loved, the Night World series by L.J. Smith. She wrote The Vampire Diaries. That's why you recognize her name. She recently passed away without finishing this series, but I love Night World. It is an amazing trilogy. They each have different stories of an interconnected world. So good. Another bookish question is my favorite main characters, which is also so difficult. It's so hard for me to pick main characters that I love because I love flawed people. If they have great character development, they're a little morally gray, they have a lot of things to grow from, that is great. In my opinion, I love a damaged person. I love Jax from Once Upon a Broken Heart, the series that goes after Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Jax, I don't love a blonde main character, but ooh, that man, I love him. Female main characters, I really like from the Inheritance games. What was her name? Avery. I really liked Avery, the main character. She was a teenager, obviously, and she's got a lot of growing to do, but I really love the way that her flaws come to light and how she works through them. I sat here and thought about it for a while, but I think we'll go with those two. We'll go with Jax and Avery for now. Those are my 2 favorite characters. The last question I have here is, what is my favorite part of the Oregon coast? Now, I am from Seaside, But I didn't learn until my 20s that Seaside is probably the most boring part of the Oregon coast. I love rock formations. I love hidden beaches. I love a good hike. Seaside doesn't offer that. It has Tillamook Head, and obviously if you go to Cannon Beach or Warrenton to Fort Stevens, there's more exciting stuff on those ends. But I would say I love, not quite fully southern, but a little bit farther up, I love the Coos Bay area. There's a bunch of waterfalls near Coos Bay. I do love Brookings and far south, but the more north you go, I feel like there's a lot more to see. Newport and Florence have a lot to offer. So I guess the middle right there, between like Bandon and Nehalem. But even Nehalem and that area has beautiful hikes. Cannon Beach has beautiful hikes. I'm gonna go with like Newport, Florence area, which is directly east of where I live right now. That was it, our Q&A. If you sat here and listened to me talk forever, I appreciate you and love you. And if you enjoy my skits, then I love that. I love that you're here. I love that I can make content that you enjoy, and I hope that we get to do it for a long time. Well, my name's Mel. I'm 26. I'm a Sagittarius. I like long walks on the beach. I love you. Say it back.